not just us as workers, it's this whole community that was suffering because they idled the plant.
Stellantis sharing Friday. The move will leave more than 1,300 workers at the Belvidere plant laid off.
This union, this workforce, we've always been a family. And walking through those doors to come back to that is what everyone's hoping for.
You know, last year as we went into our stand-up strike here in Belvidere, we showed what Walter Reuther used to say, the definition of real power.
The deal that's set to reopen Belvidere's Stellantis assembly plant
is when you make a company say yes when they want to say no. And they fought us tooth and nail, but they saw that when we organized in solidarity, that they had to come to the table and take care of our demands. And UAW family, it's time to tap into that spirit once again.
A contract was negotiated. The company violated it. They made a promise. They signed on the dotted line. We fought for the right to strike over grievances of this nature, this very nature, and if necessary, we damn well intend to use that right.
We know that our fight at Belvidere is tied to the fights in Michigan, Ohio, and anywhere else in this country. I want you all to know that your international union is done waiting around for the company to do the right thing. We are taking action. We intend to fight like hell to make this company keep their promise. So my message to Carlos Tavares is you better step up or the UAW is going to stand up.
Good evening, UAW family. Tonight I want to talk about the future of our jobs, our union, and our country. I ran to be your UAW president because I was sick and tired of the company union philosophy while plants closed and our members and the working class people fell further and further behind. The story of the past 40 years is a one-sided class war waged by the billionaire class against working families. Working class people's share of the pie, our quality of life, and even life expectancy has fallen, while billionaires and corporate executives have gotten richer and more powerful. They do it in all kinds of ways. They rig the economy, they rig the political system, they rig the legal system, they attacked our unions and turned us against one another, and in manufacturing, they use the most brutal tool of all, plant closures. The result has been the death of the American dream. Generations of Americans fought tooth and nail to turn manufacturing jobs into good union jobs. 100 years ago, massive factories sprouted up across this country, and people like my grandparents fought like hell to turn those factory towns into places where they were proud to raise their families. Places like my hometown, Kokomo, Indiana, became somewhere a working class family could live a decent life on a union contract. In the past 40 years, corporate America has pulled the rug out from under those communities. They close the plants, ship the jobs overseas, and then import the product back to America, which remains the most lucrative consumer market on earth. We have 40 years of history showing that corporate America is more than happy to destroy communities, destroy lives, and destroy families for an extra percentage point on their profit margin. And if that wasn't enough, corporate America turns around and blames the devastation they have caused on the American worker. They blame us for daring to ask for a living wage, for health care, for a secure retirement, and the ability to spend some time with our family. They do this in hard times, kicking working class people while we're down. But corporations are also more than happy to do this in good times, and Wall Street rewards them for it. Over the past 25 years, Stellantis has closed or sold or idled 18 manufacturing facilities, killing tens of thousands of jobs and decimating communities and ripping families apart. That happened despite the billions in taxpayer dollars our country has given to this company. That happened despite massive concessions in our union contracts over the years. And that happened despite record profits for the past decade. They closed plants when we worked together with the company. And they've closed plants when we fought back. And every time, they blame the auto worker. But we know the truth. The truth is that every plant closure is a decision of corporate executives. Communities were decimated so an executive could buy another mansion. Families were ripped apart so rich shareholders could buy another yacht. The decision to close plants has nothing to do with the workers fighting for a better life and everything to do with corporate greed. Many of you have experienced the devastation of plant closures. Some of you are living through one right now. Plant closures are bombs dropped by corporate America on the working class. And they're the direct cause of divorce, devastation, addiction, and even suicide. And they are completely preventable. But for too long, our labor movement has been either unable or unwilling to fight for them. The fight to keep plants open here in America, to tell corporate America that an extra billion on their bottom line is not going to be paid for with the lives of working class people. There comes a time when we have to stand up. For our UAW family at Stellantis, that time is now. We can't stand by while this company tears communities apart. After billions in taxpayer bailouts and decades of support from American workers and consumers, Stellantis has declared war on the American working class. The company's decided to respond to our support by abandoning their workers, their dealers, their consumers, and the American taxpayer. And we're here tonight to save this company from themselves and to save our communities from the war on the working class. So tonight I'm going to talk about how we're preparing to take action at Stellantis to enforce our contract and make this company keep the promise they made to the American people, up to and including national strike action if necessary. Last year in our stand-up strike, we went on offense and we won. And that may have pissed off a lot of people in corporate America. But what the billionaires feared most wasn't our wage increases. It wasn't our cost of living allowance. It wasn't ending wage tiers or winning billions in retirement or a pathway to organizing battery plants. What the billionaire class fears is letting working class people think that we can win. What they want is for all of us to give up. They want you to think a better life isn't possible, so you won't fight for it. They want you to sit down, to shut up, and accept whatever scraps they're willing to give you. And that's the game we're seeing right now again from Stellantis. What you'll hear from the company, and sadly, some members who have been brainwashed to believe it, is that our contracts made things too expensive for the company. Stellantis wants everyone to believe they simply can't afford to keep their commitments to American auto workers. But let's be clear. Stellantis is one of the most profitable auto companies in the world, and they are currently raking in billions in profits. Stellantis has generated more than $1.3 trillion in revenue over the last decade, and they've made more than $115 billion in profits over the last decade. Over the last 3 years, Stellantis has made record profits with margins among the highest in the industry. So Stellantis is rolling in the dough. They have so much money that they've committed to spending $3 billion on stock buybacks this year alone, on top of $5 billion more on shareholder dividends. They make their money off of our plants in America. They make their money selling to our market in America off of our work as UAW auto workers. The problem isn't that Stellantis workers are making too much. The problem is that no amount of profit for Stellantis executives like Carlos Tavares will ever be enough. It's not our contracts causing the company to attack us, but there is one clause in our contract that Stellantis is very, very worried about. In our 2023 contract negotiations, we made damn sure to win not just billions in product and investment commitments. We fought for and won the right to strike over that product investment and commitments. We did this because we've all seen the Big Three trample on our agreements over the years. It felt like every round of contract negotiations, we'd win job security language just for the companies to skirt our agreements by breaking out the dictionary and finding a new word for closing a plant. They claimed they weren't closing a plant, they were unallocating it, like GM did at Lordstown Assembly. They claim they're not closing, they're just indefinitely idled, like Stellantis claimed at Belvidere Assembly. The companies would trample our agreements, and UAW members and their families were left waiting years for our grievances to slowly wind their way through the arbitration process. But by that time, communities were destroyed and auto workers were scattered across the country. We knew, especially during this EV transition, that it might be a bumpy road ahead in the life of this contract. So we won expanded job security language, where workers get more pay and health care benefits in case of a layoff. But we also won the right to strike over the product and investment commitments the companies agreed to during bargaining. Those investment commitments weren't just words on paper. They were the result of bargaining. We negotiated them with the clear intent of protecting our jobs and protecting American manufacturing. And to secure that language, we gave up other things that we were asking for at the negotiating table. So we're damn sure not going to turn around and just let Stellantis violate our agreement and destroy thousands of good blue-collar jobs in America. The right to strike over product and investment is new to the UAW. So I want to take some time to walk you through this, because if we want to win this fight, we need to be educated, organized, and above all, united as we take action. In our UAW-Stellantis agreement, product and investment commitments are covered by Letter 311, titled U.S. Investment. In our 2023 negotiations, we secured $19 billion in product and investment commitments from Stellantis. This letter shows those commitments. This letter lists out each plant that the company agreed to invest in and the product or investment they committed to during negotiations. We bargained this at the table, and the membership ratified this agreement. This is in our contract, and this is binding. This is enforceable by the grievance procedure and by taking strike action, and we intend to enforce it. Right now, the company is planning to violate this agreement. They committed to a Mopar hub in Belvidere in 2024, a stamping plant in Belvidere in 2025, and an assembly plant in Belvidere by 2027. And now they're admitting they do not plan to honor those plans. They claim to be delaying the assembly plant by just a year, but it's no coincidence that they want to push the date to beyond the life of this contract. By pushing the product outside the date of the agreement, that means we have no agreement. It means that Stellantis will make us renegotiate product for Belvidere when we come back to the bargaining table in 2028. And that is not happening. And this isn't charity for our brothers and sisters at Belvidere. This is about enforcing a contract for all of us. We all sacrifice something to win these product and investment commitments. And we all, every plant, are at risk if the company can violate these agreements. And we all have a responsibility to stick together to force this company to keep the promise. So we filed grievances at 28 Stellantis locals covering tens of thousands of UAW members. And here's how that process works, because it's important to understand this. The grievance procedure has 3 steps. The first step gives the company 5 days to respond. If they don't resolve the issue, it goes to step 2. Then they have 7 more days to respond. If that doesn't resolve it, it goes to step 3, where the company gets 7 more days to respond. If the grievance still isn't resolved, each local has a 60-day window to take a strike authorization vote and notify the company. Once we've authorized a strike at a local, we meet with the company 7 times and either resolve the issue or take strike action as our union sees fit. 18 of our grievances are now at step 3 or beyond. So tonight, I'm announcing that in the coming days, we will be convening our Stellantis Council in Detroit. We will also be holding strike authorization votes at 1 or more Stellantis locals. And we will stand united to enforce our contract and save American jobs. And we ask the American people to stand with us. So how's the company responded? By continuing to violate Letter 311. Last week, the company confirmed that they are planning to violate our contract once again by moving production of the Dodge Durango from the Detroit Assembly Complex to Canada. This will kill thousands of jobs right here in America, and it is a flagrant violation of our contract. So yesterday, we began filing a new round of grievances over the Durango, because it is clear this company will not stop at Belvidere. They will not stop at the Durango. They are determined to beat down the UAW and devastate the American working class, and we will not let them. We also filed federal labor charges at the NLRB against Stellantis for refusing to provide information around these violations. That is illegal. CEO Carlos Tavares and Stellantis management are out of control. For weeks, we've been asking him to meet, and Tavares has failed to even sit down and discuss these issues with us. Instead, the company's trying to intimidate and threaten our members out of what could happen if we go on strike. They claim it would be against the law for us to enforce our contract. They do it because they want you to be scared to take action. But we have an expert legal team that has crossed every T and dotted every I. And we are fully within our rights to enforce this agreement to the fullest extent. I've seen members concerned about the clause in the contract that says, in case of a strike, the company can so-called terminate the contract. Don't misinterpret and don't be scared by that language. All that means is that we enter a status quo period where any changes must be negotiated, just like when we worked under an expired contract during our stand-up strike. The company wants you to be scared, but we are 100% within our rights and within our power to take strike action if necessary. So Stellantis is also responding by trying to put out their own public relations spin. Last week, Tavares almost broke his arm patting himself on the back for announcing $400 million in investment in 3 U.S. plants. The company put out a press release lauding this achievement. When I look at that press release, I don't see an achievement, I see an insult. That $400 million represents just 2% of the total commitment this company made to us in our 2023 national agreement. I look at that press release and I see nothing for Toledo Machining. I look at that press release and see nothing about the EV battery commitment in Kokomo. We are still waiting for the company to make good on the vast majority of its product commitments. And not all those are contract violations yet. But we're watching them closely, and we are preparing to take action. The vast majority of the American public supported us during our historic stand-up strike last year. And that's because the working class all across this country is fed up with seeing corporations make out like bandits while our families fall further and further behind. And I think it's important for everyone who's paying attention, union or not, to know what's at stake in our fight with Stellantis. The product commitment in our national agreement is not just a contract with Stellantis auto workers. It's a contract with the American people. It is a contractual commitment to good jobs in this country. And Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, an iconic American company, is violating its commitment to America. At the bottom of our 311 letter, you'll also see this language. It says these commitments are, I quote, contingent upon plant performance, changes in market conditions, and consumer demand continuing to generate sustainable and profitable volumes. So now the company is making a lot of noise about market conditions. But where were those market conditions when CEO Carlos Tavares gave himself a 56% raise, making him the highest paid auto executive outside of Tesla? Where were those market conditions when the company recently announced it's spending $3 billion this year alone on stock buybacks and another $5 billion on dividends? Where were those market conditions as GM and Ford posted strong sales and record profits during this same market? Where were those market conditions when Tavares said that North American operations are basically funding the rest of Stellantis? If the market is the problem, how and why is the company announcing 20 new products for the North American market? If the market's the problem, why is the company loading up product in Canada to produce for the U.S. market? It's because it isn't market conditions forcing Stellantis to violate our agreement and move production of the Durango from Detroit to Windsor. It isn't market conditions when your CEO is draining the company of all of its value to boost short-term profit margins, executive pay, and Wall Street giveaways. And it isn't plant performance when Belvidere Assembly has been idled for almost 2 years. We aren't the problem. The market isn't the problem. Carlos Tavares is the problem. And it isn't just us saying it. Stellantis is currently being sued by their own shareholders. They're being sued by their suppliers. They are facing a national strike action from the UAW, and even Stellantis dealer network is sounding the alarm. Last week, the Stellantis National Dealers Council spoke out against the destructive path Carlos Tavares is leading us all down. They wrote an open letter, which I'd like to quote from right now, where they stated, "We did not create this problem. The federal government did not create this problem. The UAW did not create this problem, and your employees did not create this problem. You, Carlos Tavares, created this problem." End of quote. It's not every day that we, the auto workers, are on the same side as the dealers, the same side as the suppliers, and the same side as the shareholders. But today is that day, and we are prepared to take strike action to make Stellantis keep the promise. So we ask all Stellantis members to sign up for updates at uaw.org/keepthepromise, because our country can't take more devastation, and there comes a time when enough is enough. So here's the choice facing us today. Either we allow an out-of-control CEO and his billionaire backers who have enjoyed years of record profits to close plant after plant and continuing to destroy our country, or we stand up. We fight back, and we rally the American working class to take on corporate greed. We take on plant closures. We take on an economy that works for the benefit of the few and not the many. So next week, I'm going to be meeting with the Stellantis Council, and we'll be charting out our path forward. But tonight, I want to be loud and clear. Carlos Tavares, it's time to keep the promise, or we, the UAW, will keep it for you. So I thank you all for tuning in, and we will update you as things progress. So thank you, and let's stand together in solidarity. Thank you.